morning, and welcome to the Mental Breakdown Morning Show. I'm Dr. Bernie Wilkinson.
I'm Dr. Richard Marshall.
Happy Wonderful Wednesday. I got it right this time. I almost said Wonderful Wednesday yesterday, but yesterday was, what'd you say, Terrific Tuesday?
Terrific Tuesday.
So today's Wonderful Wednesday.
Right.
So today is the day that we talk about questions from listeners. Questions that we've received from those who check out the podcast and are wondering a little bit more about some of the things that we've talked about. Right. And so today's wasn't actually a letter that we received or an email or anything like that. Today was actually a phone call that I received yesterday.
Okay, that counts.
It does? Okay, perfect. So yesterday I received a phone call from a mother asking about particular diagnoses that her child had been diagnosed with. Her child is 9 years old.
9, okay.
And he was diagnosed with ADHD. We're familiar with ADHD.
Right.
And ODD, Oppositional Defiant Disorder.
And we know about ODD.
Okay. And I'm going to say this from the beginning, just to say it. I'm not a big fan of the diagnosis of Oppositional Defiant Disorder.
I'm glad to hear you say that. Of course, I knew that, but I had to say it.
You did know that. Right. But Oppositional Defiant Disorder is for those of you who aren't sure, and this is what I was explaining to the mother yesterday, Oppositional Defiant Disorder is a condition, it's not even really, if you ask me, ask us,
right.
Oppositional Defiant Disorder, ODD, is not really a disorder. It's really a cluster of symptoms.
Right.
Things like not following directions, often loses temper, some of those kinds of things.
Which
non-compliance
differs from ADHD,
right.
which is a disorder.
We see differences in the brain. We see differences in neuropsychological functioning. But when we think about ODD, pure ODD, we're not really talking about too much as it relates to brain function, as much as what it's implying is that there's some intentional, deliberate misbehavior.
Right, and maybe the emphasis shouldn't be on disorder. Maybe it should be on the oppositional part.
Right.
Because when we use terms like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, the implication is there's some neurodevelopmental explanation.
Right. Which is why ADHD is in that section of the DSM. It's in the neurodevelopmental disorders section.
But you have this other section in DSM of the disruptive disorders of impulse control. But the implication of this label, this category of oppositional defiant disorder, the child is being oppositional and defiant, and that implies intent.
Right.
Okay, and that's the issue.
Right.
Okay? To me, the larger issue. So I agree with you that it's a syndrome.
Right.
It's a syndrome being a cluster of symptoms. Okay. But the implication is that these are willful behaviors done for some purpose.
Right.
Okay.
Now, we have well established our position on those kinds of issues because we've worked with lots of kids. We've worked with over a long period of time, and there really is just a handful. You can count them on one hand. The number of kids who seem to intentionally want to be bad.
Yeah. What we always say is it's just inconceivable to us that any child of school age would wake up in the morning and decide very consciously to say, I am going to go to school today and cause as much havoc as I possibly can.
Right.
It's not to say they don't.
Right.
Harrison Klebold did that.
Right.
But these are two guys who were mentally ill and who fed off each other.
Right.
Okay.
Well, but that's the thing is that even when people are like that, and we were talking about this just a little bit ago, even when people are like that, even when people say, I want to see what can happen, what I can do today.
Right.
Oftentimes that's a manifestation of another mental illness, some other condition. It's not. We don't have that I'm aware of. We don't have psychologically stable healthy individuals that get up and say,
No.
I'm going to be bad today.
Even
People don't do that.
Even most students who are classified as being mentally ill don't do that.
Right.
And one of the interesting aspects of this discussion is that frequently when you look up interventions for oppositional defiant disorder, physicians, psychiatrists will say there is no medication for this disorder.
Right.
We can medicate the symptoms
Right.
if they're impulsive or if they're explosive or
Right.
if they're irritable. If they have a underlying, we can medicate the symptoms, but there's no medication for oppositional defiant disorder.
Right. And when we think about ODD, one of the things that we notice right away is that rarely is ODD a diagnosis made by itself.
Right.
Usually, most of the time, ODD is a diagnosis made alongside ADHD. And there's a very good reason for that. And the reason for that is there is a significant overlap in symptoms. For example, one of the symptoms of ADHD is fails to follow directions even when he knows what the expectations are. Well, that's defiance. So depending on the interpretation of the child's behavior by the person rating the child's behavior, that could be, well, he gets distracted and he just can't pay attention, and so he doesn't get it done because he gets distracted. Or it could be, he doesn't get it done because he's refusing to do what I ask him to do. Now, when we make that diagnosis, or when many people make those diagnoses, nobody's asking the kid, so why don't you follow directions? Nobody does that. Instead, they ask the parent, so what do you say? Well, no, he definitely knows what I want him to do, and it's like he's just intentionally wanting to make me mad.
No.
And there's your diagnosis of ODD.
Right.
And we're assuming, we're sort of projecting our own frustrations onto the child and assuming his intent and his motivations, and then we end up with a diagnosis of ODD that, I'll say this, is meaningless.
Right.
A diagnosis of ODD really doesn't mean anything.
Right. Yeah. I really don't like the diagnosis.
No.
I mean, and that. I mean, there are multiple reasons. We have several layers why, but no, it doesn't. In the end, it doesn't make any. It doesn't make any sense. Okay.
Anytime I've talked to a kid who's diagnosed with ODD, and I say, well, what happens when mom asks you to do something and you don't do it? Well, I get in trouble.
I get punished.
I get punished. I get this taken away, that taken away.
Because it feels like defiance.
Right.
As the name implies, oppositional defiant disorder.
Right.
It feels like defiance. And if you defy me, I'm going to punish you.
Exactly. And then you say, well, do you enjoy that?
Right.
Actually, the first question I asked after that is, does that happen every time? Do you get punished every time you do that? Yes, I get punished every time I don't do what mom asked me to do. I get punished every time. Okay. Well, so do you like getting punished? Oh, no, I hate it. Who would like getting punished? Okay, so why do you do it? And that's sort of where it stops. He doesn't know. He forgets. He just can't remember to do it. He gets distracted. There's lots of reasons and lots of explanations for why it doesn't happen, but none of them are, well, I just want to see if she would. I know that I've been punished the last 15 days for doing the same thing, but you know what? I was going to see maybe 16 was different for her.
Maybe day 16 will be different, right?
And so it doesn't make sense.
And so many of these kids, when they say they forget, they really do forget,
right?
Because most of these disorders have something to do with frontal lobe functioning, and working memory. And the ability to remember all that stuff is a frontal lobe function.
Right.
So just like they can't attend well, they also can't remember well.
Right.
And they really do forget.
Right.
They don't think about consequences. Consequences, it's not that they think about them and say, forget about it, I'll take. No, it doesn't even pass across their radar screens.
Which is why it's so interesting that the comorbidity between ADHD and ODD is so high. Mm-hmm. Because they don't remember, they get distracted, and when you take the parents' directions away, and you look at other situations, you see exactly the same behavior. Yeah. We're just attributing it to oppositional behavior because the parent asked them to do something. Right. But if your child, and many kids with ADHD, this will happen to them. Your child says, I'm going to go do this and this and this, and then he gets in there and you say, oh, so did you have fun doing that? Oh, oh yeah, I forgot I was going to go do that. They forget the things that they want to do
Even
themselves.
things they want to do.
Right.
Right.
And so we see that, and we attribute that to, oh, well, see, there's his ADHD symptoms. But for some reason, when the exact same thing happens, but comes from a direction from the parent, well, then it's seen as just oppositional.
And the other thing to keep in mind is that these kids, these children, most children, because they're children, but especially children with ODD and ADHD and all that, they don't keep track of time.
Right.
Nor do we. If
Right.
we're doing something we really enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
time goes by pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can spend a lot of time on Facebook. People say
Right.
all the time, boy, I got involved and I just went deeper and deeper and
Yeah.
I caught up with this and that and everything. All of a sudden, 4 hours is gone.
Yeah.
When you're having fun, you lose track of time.
Right.
So when your kids are doing things they like to do, they do lose track of time. So when they say to you, I'll do it in an hour, they really mean that, but they lose track of time.
Absolutely.
And so, we always say, don't punish them for these
Right.
things that are completely normal and that we do ourselves, that
Right.
adults do.
Right. Yeah, that happened to me just a couple weekends ago. I was up here doing some work, and my son came up here with me, and he was like, hey, I'm ready to go home. I said, okay, just a couple more minutes, and I just got do a couple of things, and then we'll head out. And he came in a little while later, and he goes, so are you ready to go? I said, we're just about ready. And I looked at the time, and it had been an hour.
Right. And he patiently waiting for you.
I was like, my bad, buddy.
And that's what I'm saying. We do it ourselves. So don't always assume that your children.
Right.
I think the last assumption I would make is that they're being defiant.
Right.
I think I would come up with almost any other explanation.
Even if it happens repeatedly,
Right.
it doesn't mean it's defiant, oppositional,
Right.
intentionally oppositional behavior.
And we typically say either they have a skill deficit
Right.
that they can't do it,
Right.
or what's the other? They have
They're looking for some kind of gain.
They want some. They're
trying to
meet
avoid
some
something.
need,
Right.
or
Right.
they want to avoid something, or they want to get something, and so and if we know what that is,
Well,
then we're
but
on
we
our
see
way.
that when parents are inconsistent.
Right. Yeah.
If you tell him to do something and today you punish him for it, but tomorrow you ask him to do something and he doesn't do it and you don't punish him,
Right.
well, okay, now there's some inconsistency. So, we've talked before about the intermittent
Right.
reinforcement schedule.
The
slot machine.
Right.
If there's a chance that I don't have to take the trash out,
I'm going
take
to
the trash
count
out.
on not getting punished
Right.
today because I know I don't always get punished, and I'm just going to bank on I won't get punished today.
Right.
So
right.
I won't do it.
And it's not even that's a cognitive decision that they make.
No.
It's not that they sit down and calculate
There's
the
no
odds.
calculus. No, there's no
It just-
calculus here.
It's just like, well, I don't think I got in trouble for that before.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. So if you have a child with ADHD and ODD, we're not treating. Don't think about treating the ODD. Don't try to think about treating the oppositional behavior. Look at what is really causing some of it, and it's usually the ADHD symptoms. And so you need to create some structure, create some organization, have a planner, have a chart, have things sort of in a visual presentation so that kids can remember what they're supposed to do, and you can always refer them back to look at the list on the refrigerator. That's what you do next, and just be patient. And that's probably the biggest recommendation we can make to you.
And one final comment about teenagers. Teenagers are by nature oppositional and defiant. They almost have to be
Because they want to be independent.
if they want to separate, and we want them to separate. We want to do detachment parenting with our teenagers, and so they are by nature oppositional and defiant.
Right.
So don't confuse normal teenage behavior with a diagnosis of oppositional. This is normal teenage behavior. This is not pathology.
Absolutely.
So be careful.
Absolutely. So, all right. Just some
Good
things to think about today.
Yeah, good topic.
Yeah.
Good topic.
So have a great day today. Today's Wednesday, so again, we're going to get out and exercise. Hopefully you've been doing all the things we've been talking about so far this week. You've been
I just thought of something.
What?
You're going to ask me how I did last night.
I wasn't going to ask.
Okay, go ahead.
How did you do last night?
I did great. But it made me think of something. You don't remember Jackie Gleason, do you?
Of course I do.
You do? Do you remember his
To
show?
the moon. To the moon.
Do you remember his variety show?
Oh, no. I remember the Honeymooners.
No. Well, he had a variety show.
Wasn't he on the Honeymooners?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But
Him and Art Carney.
that's right. But years before that,
And that was in black and white, too.
right. But years before that, he had a variety. He was the MC of a variety show, like Ed Sullivan. Okay. But Jackie Gleason was corpuscular, rotund. Big, fat.
Okay. Okay.
And so he publicly went on a diet, and every show he would weigh himself. Okay, so this is like Jackie Gleason, right?
Yeah.
Like every week, like every morning, you ask me how I'm doing.
Man, I didn't.
I'm glad you asked because I did great last night.
I didn't know where you were going with that. I was like,
No, it was. I had another good night last night.
Well,
Didn't
good.
overeat.
fantastic.
Did good. Hungry this morning.
Yeah. That's all right.
Alright.
That's all right. Eat a few eggs.
So yes, every day you have to do it every day.
You do.
I mean, you slip and slide, and it's up and down. It's a famous sawtooth pattern. But generally, the curve is moving up. So
Perfect.
clothes are getting a little bit looser.
That's good.
You know.
That's good.
And you start to feel better. You said that one time. You said you start to get motivated
Right.
when you feel a little success.
As soon as you start having a little success, as soon as the clothes start feeling, it's like, wait, I have to use
man,
another
it's
notch on
working.
the belt. That's
working.
strange.
You know, now it's
Yeah.
working. I can tie my shoes. You know. No, that's another story.
That's from the hips.
That's from the hips.
So, all right. So yes, get out and exercise today. Go for your walk. Hatching eggs for Pokemon. Whatever the case may be, however you choose to do it, just get out and exercise a little bit. Eat well today, and try to meditate a little bit.
Right.
And we talked before about at night taking that little bit of time to reflect on the day. What did you succeed with, and what do you want to succeed and do tomorrow?
Yeah. What's the plan for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Be mindful.
Be mindful of that. Think about what you want to do. Think about what you did today, and then think about what you want to do tomorrow. Jot that down. Just put a note that this is what I want to do tomorrow, and then make that a mission.
Right.
All right? So we'll be back tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow is Thursday. I got to think of a good adjective for Thursday. We have Terrific Tuesday. We need. So we will be back tomorrow and have a great
That one
day.
caught me off guard.
I know. I don't.
I'm thinking of a TH here, and I missed it.
Yeah, I don't know. So, but have a great day today. It's going to be a fantastic one, and we will see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
All right. Bye bye.